Mais la question aussi, ça a été dit ce matin par le directeur de l'école de Ludwigsburg, ils insistent sur la maîtrise technique des outils. Et pour toi, c'est un élément d'enseignement que de maîtriser la caméra, le son, l'éclairage, le montage.
No, all these things are extremely important to learn how to use all these various techniques. But you know, one of the things that I try to do in my classes is I say, okay, let's simplify everything. We have a microphone. What can the microphone do? We have the camera. What can the camera do? What are the capabilities of the camera? And this is a question that I asked before anything else, because when I was filming in pellicule, and this is how I learned. I learned by making porno films in New York when I was 19, and I had no money, so I was going to an art school, and I learned how to make movies by someone paying me to shoot. And I would look at the footage at night and see if it was exposed properly, and if the sound was good, et cetera, et cetera. And this was because in those days, if you had a low ASA of film, you can only shoot outside. You had different films, one film for inside, one film from outside. You had black and white, et cetera. Nowadays, in a video camera, everything is very easy. But what I'm saying is that we had to learn which pellicule is good, what kind of microphone to use, what kind of tripod, PA to use or not to use a PA. And these are all questions that you have to ask yourself right from the beginning before you even start making a film, because all these questions are connected to a bigger issue, which is how am I going to attack my idea with the best way? What do I utilize? What kind of equipment do I utilize to make my film? Do I need lights? And what do lights do to my scene? Can I just make a film with I have this little camera here, which I think is amazing. It's costs €200, but this sound and picture, and then I just plug it into the computer. You've probably seen this, and you can download it, and you have almost instant footage, and the quality is HD, and it's extremely incredible. There are things that I can use this camera for that I can never use another camera for. So this becomes part of this whole technique of how to work with things. And I think that one of the things that's important, and I saw this in FEMIS last year, was there was an overabundance of emphasis on equipment. Students will say, well, I can't shoot this week because I don't have the latest camera that the school only has 2 of. But they had tons of other cameras. And I thought, well, for the student project that he's doing, he could use any camera. He doesn't need the best camera. But again, this is something that I think that the teachers should really think about, teaching the students and not making them into elitists by giving them the best equipment.
Que veut dire pour toi enseigner? C'est conforter, rassurer, déranger, bousculer, provoquer, attaquer, avoir confiance, avoir de la défiance. C'est quoi le geste pédagogique qui nourrit ton engagement dans les écoles?
Well, all of those. I mean, I think that the role of the school is to give the students the room to make mistakes. And I say this because the film business is fucking cruel. You were talking about pitches before. In my world of the people who make cinema, the people who have been around for a while, they don't like doing pitches because they are pitching usually to television, and television has a very, very small window of what they're interested in. In this day and age, pitching in film festivals is a business because they charge people to pitch. So they get 50 people to pitch, everybody pays €200, blah, blah, somehow they make money on it, and they have people coming to the festival. It creates more people, but the people who are coming there, who are from the television stations mostly, they're hiding from the filmmakers because they don't want to be seen because they're going to be attacked with projects. Most of the projects that are pitched are, not most, I would say 99% of them, are not going to get money, and it's like a false hope. And this pitching thing was in fashion about 10 years ago, and it's slowly going out of fashion because it's bullshit, That's how difficult it is. So the teachers, the schools, should give the students an opportunity to do crazy stuff, to experiment. Because when they go into the real world, a lot of them, I would say 99% of the students will no longer be making experimental, aggressive, very personal films, because there is no place in television, in a marketplace, in cinemas, to show those kind of films. coming from sort of an American kind of European background, one thing I discovered many years ago, which is becoming more and more true, is that it's easy to make a film, but it's really fucking hard to get a cinema to show your film. And think about that. You go through all this. Use your credit cards. You get the money. You make your film, and then your film is shown in a few film festivals and maybe a few cinemas. And that's kind of the life of that's the reality. That's the life of an independent film. It's very hard. So in film school is a place where you can do crazy stuff. So when you go out into the world, at least you have done that. At least you had the opportunity to do things that are really important to you and not trying to be a professional in film school, because you have your whole life to become professional if you learn how to make, if you stay in the film business.
It has been said this morning, il a été dit par Monsieur Josselin qu'il y avait les études, la pédagogie, apprendre à faire des films, et ensuite la vraie vie. You have the life in the film schools, and afterwards the real life.
No. I mean that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So in other words, the thing about film schools, to reiterate that, the thing about film school is that when you're not, I mean, look, correlated to music, for instance. If you are a musician, or let's say a rock and roll musician, not a classical musician because it's different, you learn your music at an early age. By the time you're 20 years old, you really have the music in you, and this is when you start producing your music, and a lot of musicians make it when they're 20, 22, 23 years old. In cinema, it's a little bit different, because in cinema you have to study and then you go out into the real world. But in fact, it should be the same as music. You do those crazy things when you're young so that you are then, when you are confronted with the reality of the outside world, you have a little bit of rebel in you, so that you can shake the system, so that you don't learn in school to be a conformist already. Because if that's what you're learning in school, then there's the function of the school is primarily to knock out people, so that the world is kind of, they psychoanalyze people so they go out into the world and they feel normal. But in fact, the filmmakers are not normal. They're fucked up people, and they're facing a really fucked up world. And if you don't realize that, then you should do something else. Because let's face it, every year the world produces how many students that come out of film schools, and how many of those students are going to stay in the world of film or cinema or television? A very small percentage of them. So that's the reality.
3 last questions for 3 short answers, please. At the end, film schools are necessary in your eyes?
Well, this is a difficult question, because they are. I think that listen, let's just put it this way. And I consider myself certainly bourgeois. Film schools are bourgeois. They are made for people feeling good about studying something that they can go out and maybe do something in their lives. To a great extent, that's true. But I think that if there is going to be a revolution in the world, I don't think the revolution is going to start in film school. I think it's going to start somewhere else. And the people who are really interested in the revolution are going to be going on YouTube and making those kind of films. So that's my answer.
What did you learn in the film schools for yourself?
I went to an art school, and I took some as a teacher. I learned that it's really funny, but there's a great deal of optimism that I have from individual students. The system I'm not optimistic about, but the individual students give me a lot of energy, and that's when I go into a new situation to teach students, I'm always thinking, well, who's going to be the one that's going to surprise me? Who's going to have the talent? And I'm looking at them, and they're kind of like my children. So what I'm learning from them, and I'm I don't want to destroy them by saying that you're not good, but that's what I get from the students. Is I get a sense of optimism from the individuals.
New issues on the web, for instance?
Well, the web for me is important because it's connected to a lot of things, and one of them is distribution. And it's really funny because when I proposed this idea last year in FEMIS to the students that we're going to create this website, which will become like a film, and all these other films will be part of this bigger project, the students were not so interested in this because they were interested in making films. By the end, when they saw this website, they understood that, oh yes, there's something here. There is look, we live in a modern world. The modern world is really a corporatized world dominated by the corporations, which means that there's very little room for distribution of ideas. Forget just films, of ideas. So the internet and the website and using the technology as a way to break the system. And for me, that's very important. So we have to find ways to tell stories on the internet which are not corporate looking, which don't look like they're manufactured by some corporate thinking. They need to be done in a way that I think is sort of underground, in a way that is provocative, and that can break through the system and get people inspired.
Lech Kowalski, thank you very much. Why did you accept this invitation today?
Because out of curiosity, and I was very curious to see Switzerland is small, and what is teaching all about in Switzerland? What is schools all about in Switzerland? Because let's face it, it's part of our reality. This idea of film schools will not go away. Merci.
Thank you.
Jean Perret reste avec nous puisque c'est lui qui va animer la seconde table ronde de cette journée qui est un peu le pendant de celle de ce matin puisqu'elle va être consacrée